Hi, I'm Steven with AlbertaUrbanGarden.ca. So today we're going to touch on a couple of things. The first being, you'll notice there's a hole behind me. So we fought off the aphid infection successfully. Ladybugs are in here doing their job, and I was looking up, and then disaster struck. I looked down and I saw cabbage moths. I did have my brassicas covered. I had no cabbage moths that I saw, but somehow they got in. And you know what happened is there were so many of them that I pulled the plug on my cabbages this year. If you follow on Facebook and Google+, you'll notice that I had some damage to my trial beds as well. That wasn't caused by cabbage moths. Oddly enough, those weren't even covered. That was caused by voles. What they did is they came up, they nibbled it, they dragged the leaf down, and I actually found their little stalk pile, and now I'm trying to catch these voles. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. I'm not being very successful, but between that and the cabbage moths, I seem to have lost my cabbage crops this year. I'm a little upset about that. I'm not gonna lie. I was pretty excited to try cabbages. I've always kind of shied away from them, mostly because of the cabbage moth problems, and I wasn't quite sure how I was going to handle that. I figured this hoop house here that Savage Northern Gardener helped me with, and the cabbages he actually gave me, I figured I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to make it, and I'm going to get some cabbage, I'm going to get some great kale, some Brussels sprouts and stuff. Well, nope, guess not. And that kind of got me thinking, you know, about the important things in the garden. Not only do I love gardening and growing things and you know, feeding my family with this garden, but I enjoy the stories behind things. So I thought I'd bring you along today and we'd chat about some of the stories of the plants and, you know, the garden that are really important to me. And then I would love to hear your own. You know, I'm always interested in your gardens and how you're doing and the stories and the history of your gardens, because that's part of the process. You know, when I have friends over and they come into the garden, you know, their first comment is usually, it looks bigger on YouTube. YouTube adds 10%, I'll say. But, you know, it's the stories, right? And I don't think I've told you guys very many of the stories, so I figured I'd do that today just as kind of an interest piece. And anyways, I'm going to bring you up further into the garden and show you some of the very special things that I have here. So before we get into the stories, I'm going to open myself a cold one. It's a beautiful summer day. It rained really hard last night. The sun has come out. It's warming up nicely. A little bit of a wind, which is kind of nice, keeps the bugs away. But there's nothing like a good cold Canadian beer on a day like today. Garden beer is my favorite. So one of the things that I particularly enjoy is, I must be a kid at heart, is rock collecting. So I've got rocks from 2 provinces, 1 territory, and a couple of different countries, but those littler rocks are actually in my shed because I like to keep my little rock collection safe. So this is a stone from Yellowknife that my father brought me, and on a couple of trips over the last few years, he's brought me some very interesting stones from the Northwest Territories around the Yellowknife area. And these not only serve as beautiful shiny rocks, they're part of my paving stones, and they're also great heat sinks. So what they do is they actually take the solar radiation, absorb it, put it into the surrounding material, and then slowly let it off at night. So it keeps this garden ecosystem just a little bit warmer, which is beneficial for us up here in Zone 3. And right here is a big stone from northwestern Ontario. My Grandpa Lampy sent it over. And I've got stones like this one from my Grandpa Legary, and you know, I've got stones that I collected with a friend. Actually, the stone right, you can't see it, but the stone right in the middle of my center bed here, good friend Mark at work and we scavenged that on a trip that we were on, and that thing is heavy. It was really difficult to get into to the vehicle, but we got it there safely. In front of me are my Seascape strawberries. Now, these I really enjoy. Not only are they producing tons, as you've seen on Google Plus and Facebook, they're a treat. My son loves them, and one of the biggest reasons why I started gardening was to share some of my favorite childhood memories with my future children. Well, now I'm lucky enough to be a father, and I get to share that. And you know, when my son comes into the garden, he picked himself a ripe strawberry, just like this one. He picked it, he went like this. His eyes lit up, and he was just happy. That's what I want. I not only want the garden to be, you know, to share with you guys and to be relaxing for me, but I want my son to enjoy it and have a connection with his food, and, you know, to have those positive memories growing up. I really do want to share that with him. The other things are these grapes. Now, if you were with me last fall, you saw me plant them. And you also saw an interview I did with my grandfathers. Now, both of my grandfathers live in northeastern Ontario, sorry. No, western, yeah. Sorry, I'm a little crazy. They both live there. And I was talking with them last summer when they were here visiting my son about, you know, the garden and stuff like that. And they both made comments about grapes. And I said, grapes? I had no idea grapes could grow here. Well, sure enough, they can. They grow in northwestern Ontario, and so they both were nice enough to send me some grapes. So I've got a great interview that we did, and I posted that on the channel. It's a few episodes back, but I was really worried. I mean, northwestern Ontario is a different climate than Alberta here, and I was a little worried. So in the spring, my Ligari grape budded right away. Oh, I was thrilled. I was excited that it budded. And the reason why I was excited is it made it through a harsh winter. And although I don't expect fruit this year, you know, there's more hope that it'll make it through next winter and maybe even produce some fruit in the future. And they're both Concord grapes, and I call them my Ligari and Lampy heirloom. Now, the Lampy one, I've been out here all the time checking. And, you know, it was about the third week in June. I came out with my son, like I do lots of days, and there was nothing on there. And I was starting to get really disparaged. I was like, oh, did they die? You know, why? I couldn't figure it out. The ends weren't looking great. Like, there wasn't a lot of life in them. 2 days later, I came out, and there was 4 centimeters, or just about 2 inches of growth. I was thrilled. So I've got my heirloom grapes, and I mean, you saw that we put a lot of effort into these trellis, and you know, a lot of thought into these grapes, and my Ligari, I've got 2 of them. The one is over here in the garlic bed that you can't see. I got my Lampy, there's only 1 of them. I'm happy. Hopefully they'll make it through another winter, and then maybe next year they'll have enough strength to really take off, and enough, you know, of an establishment to make it through winters easily, to grow fast enough, and to hopefully one day produce yummy Concord grapes. And I mean, you know, I could tell you tons of stories in my garden. Like these original garden beds, my best friend growing up, Andy, helped me build them. We were putting in the lawn, because when we bought this, we built this home, the backyard was just clay. It was graded clay. So when we were putting in the lawn, I pulled in as many favors as I could to get as many people as I could to come over and help, because it's, if you've ever put in a lawn, it's a lot of effort. And my buddy Andy came, and Andy lives in the Northwest Territories now. He's been kind of all over the place with his work, but he came over, and you know, to be honest, before then I didn't know that I could build things, because I really didn't have the opportunity. So, you know, the garden was one of the first things that I put in, and you know, we kind of figured out how to build it, and you know, the video I showed you on building the trial beds, or the raised beds on a slope, that's what we had figured out, is the process to do that. And I built the first one with him, and he said, Stephen, I got it. Okay. And sure enough, I helped everyone else do the rest of the projects around the yard. By the end of the day, not only did we have a lawn, we had a garden, and the garden beds were filled. Andy had finished it. I mean, having a connection like that to each, whether it's interesting garden stones, or it's your prized great plants, or if it's just building the garden itself. You know, the trellis, I built that with my father. My grandfather helped me wire it up. My buddy helped me build the garden. My other buddy helped me bring, you know, big stone in here. It's all those memories that just make gardening. I love growing, but I love the story as well. And you know the goji berries behind me. Someone I used to work with told me about goji berries, and then I saw on John Kohler's program actually that he had grown them, and I said, man, those would be pretty neat to grow. And then I found out they actually grow here. So now comes the end of my story time. You know, you've heard me long enough today. I've got, you know, I could go to every step of this garden and it would have a story. And that's the way I really love to garden, is I'm surrounded by memories and enjoyment. And as these things flower and produce, you know, it just brings a little more joy to me. But I want to hear your stories, whether you respond in the comment section below, or in a video, or in a blog post, or photos on Facebook, Google+. Please link me to them. I'd love to hear your stories about your garden. I want to know. I want to, you know, learn from you. You know, if you've got any special stories, I'd love to hear them. And I appreciate you spending time with me week in and week out. You guys spend a lot of time with me. You know, I've been posting 2 videos a week right now because I just have so much I want to share with you guys, and I appreciate you spending so much time with me. And I don't anticipate stopping anytime soon. I'm having a lot of fun doing this, and you know, you guys let me do some pretty neat stuff, and you guys teach me a lot. And you know, I wouldn't be the gardener I am today without you guys. So thank you. And with that, we'll call this an episode. You have yourself a great day, and we'll chat later.